folks. This is Doug Foster, Truth Seeker. How are you, Truth Seekers, doing this evening? Taking off from where we left off yesterday in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45. Just want to say, blessings to you, and I hope you're having a good day. If you want to make any comments or anything, please do. If there's anything that ask or anything like that, you're more than welcome to put them in the comment section. I'll try to read them and comment on them and respond. We'll start back with verse 45 where we left off yesterday. It says, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenedst not unto the voice of Yahweh Elohim to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever, because thou servest not the Yahweh Elohim with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things." All the blessings that he gives us, we ain't doing it. Hold on, folks.
Robert said he was short earlier.
Yeah, $2.73.
Going halfway down fast, Richard was like, alright.
Alrighty.
Hey, yeah.
Alright, have a good evening. Sorry about that, folks, but I'm trying to work and do this too at the same time, so if y'all would please be patient with me. And upon thy seed forever, because thou servest not Yahweh Elohim with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for all the abundance of all things. Well, when we keep his covenant and we do honor him and keep his law and all, like he's asked us to, and commanded us to, then the blessings of his creation, we'll have those things that are necessary for us to be healthy, happy, whole, have joy and peace, with our fellow human beings. We won't have the contention and the hostility and all that we see in the world today. It's just incredible. I mean, Yahushua, he said also in Matthew 24, which is a very prophetic book. It deals with prophetically with the time preceding Christ's departure from the earth, and also up till and including our time. And it talks about a house being divided. The daughter against the mother, and the mother against the daughter, and the father against the son against the father, and contention and division. I mean, it seems to be the hallmark of America. We're more divided than we've ever been. I mean, I don't even think during the Civil War we were as divided as we are now. Everybody against everybody. And he said that your worst, enemies be in your own household. You don't have to look outside for them. I mean, you just look right here and you'll find them. And so this is again one of the consequences of not keeping covenant. Is that it creates division, and division will grow because again, people love themselves and they're self-centered, and I want what I want. I don't care whether you want like it or if it affects you, or no matter what. People are they're selfish, and it actually leads to conflict. I mean, physical conflict, and you look at the war of words going on now. People around the world, everybody's at contention with each other and at each other's throat, and of course it can only end very badly, possibly another world war. And For you folks out there that are not familiar with Albert Pike, he was a Civil War general in the Confederacy, and he was also a Satanist and a 33rd degree Freemason or Mason. He also established the Southern Lodge, Grand Lodge of the Southern, I think it's the Eastern Star, the Scottish Rites of Freemasonry. There's two main lines of Freemasonry. There is the Grand Lodge of England, what they call the Blue Lodge or whatever, and then there is Continental Masonry, which is the Scottish Rites and Eastern Star, you know, the Shriners and all that kind of stuff. Well, Albert Pike had been contacted by the Illuminati or Illuminists over in Europe, and through a guy named Giuseppe Mazzini, and he wrote him a letter about how they could bring about the pure Luciferian system, pure religion of Luciferianism or whatever, and it included starting wars, starting World War I, World War II, and World War III. But all along it was establishing different things. I mean, World War I was, came about to try to destroy the czars over in Russia and put in communism, and to make communism a atheistic competitor to Christian Western doctrine and whatever, and balance, to kind of have a global balance there between opposing forces. And it's the Hegelian dialectic, controlled opposition, distraction, like the magician draw your attention over here while they're doing what they're doing over here. And so he began to plot. They were plotting this, and of course they shot the Archduke Ferdinand. They had him assassinated over there in Czechoslovakia, and that triggered it. He was a Habsburg, and that triggered it all. And then World War II, same thing, with the Nazis, and Chamberlain, peace in our time, and all this, while these people behind the scenes, these Illuminati, were plotting to do things that would trigger one side or the other to start this war. And they did. They were doing things to antagonize the Nazis, Germany. And not that I'm defending Nazi Germany, but I mean, what I'm trying to illustrate here is that these people, these Illuminists, these globalists, Luciferians, Satanists, whatever you want to call them, have always been working behind the scenes. They're the ones you don't hear about, they're the ones you don't never see, in the public eye or nothing like that. They always are in the background, and of course they are, it's believed that they are Nephilim bloodlines, that they are the offspring of, genetically the offspring of these fallen beings and human women, and from thousands of years ago. Because if you look at the history of these monarchies and stuff, they would intermarry. I mean, even marry real close to keep their bloodline intact. Another thing that people ain't aware of is that all of the U.S. presidents, and they say with the exception of Martin Van Buren, but even some people believe that somewhere distantly he also is related to King John Lackland of England. That they all are, every one of them, including the Barack Obama. I mean, all the presidents. Even though it's distant a lot of times, cousin ninth removed or something like that, but they still can trace their tree all the way back to King John Lackland. I mean, the one that started Lord Mayor Day over there in England, where they march Gog and Magog, the Nephilim giants, march them around out there, on this day over there. So you can kind of start beginning to see how this stuff is orchestrated behind the scenes to get people away from the true Elohim, through their machinations and their schemes by manipulating whole populations of people, around the world, governments, setting up governments, tearing down governments, putting people in place that they want in place to enact, enact laws and different things to bring about their agenda. And and it perpetuates through these families because they're very tight-knit and very quiet and secretive. I mean, Rothschilds, Warburgs, Kassors, Pinkins, Kuhnlobes, I mean, all these blue blood families that you don't never really hear nothing about, because they don't want people to understand how they are behind the scenes manipulating stuff. And so Albert Pike, he was a Luciferian Satanist, whatever. He was plotting with these people and designing the blueprint, basically, to go by to achieve their Luciferian system of religion, by destroying all other religions and atheism, and they want to antagonize and start a war between the Muslims and the Hebrew or the Jews over there. I mean, and there's a lot of debate about them Jews over there too. I mean, they're not all Jews. Some of them are of the synagogue of Satan, the Zionists. They are not Hebrew Hebrew Jews from the bloodline of Shem. They're from the bloodline of Japheth, which is over around the Caucasus and the Black Sea and the Slavic and Germanic area, and plus even including probably Turkey, the descendants of Japheth. And so these people are what they call Ashkenazi Jews. So Christ said they were not. Says not all that say that they're Jews are Jews, but they are those that say they are Jews, but they are of the synagogue of Satan, and they are. And so him and Albert Pike Mazzini, they orchestrated it, and they've put this real contention between the Jews and the Muslims, and between the Christians and the Gnostics and the atheists and the agnostics. And so they want to create this war between the Jews and them, and that they'll mutually destroy each other, the Muslim people, Islam and Judaism. And then once that happens, and they basically have World War III, because it'll drag everybody into it. If you get a war going now, I mean, a real heated, especially in the Middle East, it's a quagmire and everybody's got a hand in there, it's going to trigger a world war. Well, then they figure what'll happen is after that the atheist and the nihilist or the anarchist will go at war with the Christians, and the Christians, because the atheists and the nihilist and the anarchist are a smaller group, the Christians will overcome them, but they'll be so wore out and so disheartened and their faith will be destroyed, and that they can, basically draw them right into believing in the, Lucifer when he shows up, and in the embodiment of a man somewhere. He shows up and leads them right into taking the mark of the beast and all that stuff there. So do a little research on that, and you get a little better understanding about kind of how things develop, because of these people behind the scenes manipulating stuff, and getting laws put into place and allowing things that beforehand were not allowed, that were shunned by society. I'm talking about homosexuality and blatant fornication and pornography and rampant drug use and all of the different things that are plaguing our society now. These people are the ones behind it, and it's because people won't accept this truth, and they reject it, and so we began to lose the abundance of His blessing. We begin to have all of these troubles that are from it. And it says, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, and He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until He have destroyed thee. And of course, that's what's coming. I mean, you look at how, the food and the water and everything is just under attack. And I was talking about the weather modification, all these metals and stuff they're putting in the air, the powdered aluminum, strontium, barium, and a whole host of other things that they're putting up there. It's just poison in all the water. It's poison in the ground. It's poison in the plants and the trees. I mean, it's poison in everything. And so we're going to end up down to a point that's exactly where we're going to be at. We're going to be, people are going to be so disenchanted, disheartened, and just, at their bottom, and it's going to make them real easy to be taken over. I mean, and to be basically, enslaved, even if it's not the what we think of as slavery, with chains and there's different kinds of enslavement, and the mark of the beast is one of those things. And I believe that the mark of the beast is more than just getting a chip put in your hand or a mark put on you. I think it's a combination of things, but mainly I think it has to do with genetics. I think it has to do with changing people, altering people genetically to where they're no longer human anymore. And you do a little research on that, transhumanism and the integration of electronics, components and stuff into human beings. Basically cyborgs. You begin to see that this has always been Satan's agenda, is to destroy and corrupt Elohim's creation, to mold it into what His identity is in His image and in His paradigm, and to do away with the world as it was originally created, when Elohim said and He saw that it was good. So He wants to do away with that. And and the main attack is against humans. And I believe where it says that people who take the mark of the beast cannot be forgiven of that, they can't be saved. And I think that's because when they do that, they transition from being human anymore to being something else. And I believe that Yahushua died for human beings, not for transhumanist 2.0 or whatever, or a cyborg or a Nephilim. I mean, He didn't die for those. He died for fallen human beings. And so this is what will, and that is a form of yoke. That's a form. Once you're yoked to that system, to Satan's system. When you take that, you become yoked to that. Verse 49, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the north, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Sounds kind of like Russia, don't it? Gog and Magog. And, Biden up here, poking, as they say a lot of times on the news, poking the bear. Well, if you corner them people up over there, and they have just as many weapons as we do. I mean, yeah, America's got probably the greatest numerical military as far as machines and technology and all that stuff of any people that's ever been. But the Russians, they also have a tremendous amount of military might, and they have a tremendous amount of nuclear weapons, and they even have some that are hypersonic, that there is no real defense against these things, and they can dodge and dip and evade if you did have some kind of hypersonic weapon, weapon, then this thing would evade it. And not to mention that I think they call it the whale or the typhoon or something like that submarine that just left, one of the biggest ones that's ever been built. And they it carries a torpedo that is once they turn it loose, it goes where they program it to go. Hold on, folks. Gotta wait on customer.
All right. I need one of your
PBTs.
Yeah, okay. Need one of your little torches there and 2 more packs of your top roll mixes. The wind's starting to pick up out there a little bit. Well, man. Eyeballs are trying to fog up on me, man.
That started out nice today.
Oh yeah, sure did.
Seen where they was already out there chemtrailing, man. I mean, they were going at it.
Yeah, I've seen that myself.
They do that to change the weather, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, some bitches are good for that. Wow, oh, man. Let me show you these, man. I've been making these and selling them. I got a bunch of them. Yeah, all the money out of these is going to the Girl Scouts. More Abby's in the Girl Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
They have their meetings. I've got about 2 hours time invested in that.
Yep.
And them little ones, $5. That big one, hell, if it ain't worth $15 for that great big one, I keep it. Give it to mom or whatever. Wow. You know anybody that might be interested in something like that, or I mean?
No, I sure don't, Ernie. I don't mess with them, man. To be honest with you.
I hear you.
But yeah, I don't know anybody in particular, man. I mean, might find somebody around here that might be interested in
I've sold, but so far in the last month and a half, I'd say I've probably sold, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 of them. But it's mostly just little fellers like you, They were, all the people so far that's bought them have been all old school, old heads, old potheads, like Dad's age, old Vietnam vets, people of that age generation. True hippies,
Right.
Well, I've got, I think there's 8 or 9 of them at the house that needs the tails and the feathers put on them. Jenny, my cousin's got, I think she said it was 27 of them up there that I've done. And she sells them somewhere, I guess advertise them online or whatever, but I've got enough grapevine and string left to make maybe another 15 or 16 of them.
Right.
It benefits them girls, that's
Yeah.
makes it all worthwhile to me, man,
Right.
Like Jenny, she said whenever they have their Girl Scout meetings, she always has something from the drink, and you always gets pizza or something from the snack on. Like she said, that's where that money comes from.
Right.
If she don't have something,
We usually try to give them something, if they need it, they come by here and we'll give them something. Drinks or something.
Would you be interested in doing some consignment, like I'd make them bring some down here?
I don't like doing that, Ernie. Yeah.
I didn't know up here. You never knew until you asked me. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. I don't like doing that kind of stuff, but you might talk to Becca about it.
All right. I mean, I understand. Like I said, you never know if you don't ask.
Yeah.
I figured, well, sure, it'd be a good time to speak up, say something.
Yep, you're
All
right.
man. All right,
All right, I'll see you later, Ernie. folks, you know, but like I said, I'm working, so and I'm trying to get this done in a short period of time because I don't want to bore you to death. But you know that we see that's kind of the scenario that seems to be playing out, and you know, just like with the Hebrew people, you know how he told them he was going to bring somebody that they didn't know, that they didn't speak their language or whatever, and bring them there and take them into captivity, and he did. The Assyrians, like I said, in the northern kingdom, and the Babylonians come and took the people of Judah. It says, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. I mean, these people will be ruthless. I mean, they won't have mercy on anybody. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. Well, now in the case of us, I mean, if we did get into a nuclear conflict, I don't think they're going to be coming over here getting the cattle and all that, because there probably won't be none to get. Everything will be contaminated, but it, you know, it still conveys the same thing, you know, that you know, you're not going to have nothing here because it's going to be destroyed. And in Revelation it talks about that, you know, Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen, is fallen. And I'm kind of lean towards the fact that maybe, you know, the United States might just be Babylon the Great that it's talking about, the harlot. And she shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustedest, throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. You know, build the wall, build the wall. I mean, well, I don't think that's going to stop these people if they want to get in here. A wall ain't going to do it. It's just a false sense of security. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body. People will be cannibalism. Eat the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee, in the siege and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward you, toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. Over in Israel, I think when they were under siege over there, they got to a point where they started eating their own kids. I mean, because they couldn't get no food. So, you know, and I mean, we've got people committing cannibalism over here now that ain't under, you know, siege or nothing, or ain't, you know, able to not get food or something. You know, Jeffrey Dahmer. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. That's where, you know, hey man, we'll eat your kid today, tomorrow we'll eat mine. You know, and then whenever it comes time, oh no, we ain't eating mine, I will. Hold on, folks. Hello.
That's right. Put that candy right in front of my face.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Grocery store tactic.
That's right. Whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Get a Pepsi.
Hello.
Figure out what I want. Oh gosh, I better have one of these.
5:38.
One, 2, 3, 4, good carpool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Y'all too.
Oh,
Go ahead, man.
Throwing money at you there. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Hello. And I need 3 packs of cigarettes, please. Blue 100s.
There you go, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, you have a good evening.
If he goes to bed, I probably will. He's already driving me nuts.
I apologize again, folks. You gotta make a living, though. Let's see. And they'll says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her legs, her feet, and toward her children, which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege, and straightness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in thy gates. So people, like I say, they'll revert to, cannibalism, eating their own. I mean, if you look at abortion, I mean, people now wanting to abort babies up to and including the time of birth. I mean, they've lost their natural affection. I mean, I've often thought, well, I know men are kind of harder a little bit, and a little more cold, because they have to be out in the harsh world, but to think of a mother, willing to kill their own babies, man, that's kind of hard, man. I mean, I just can't understand it. I really can't. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, Yahuwah Elohim, then Yahuwah will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuance. The plagues will be long, the sicknesses will be long. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. Talking about the things that happened when Moses went to lead the people out of bondage in Egypt. the plagues that came upon Egypt, they'll bring them on them, including the death angel, you know, the destroyer. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, then will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed, and ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God, or Yahuwah Elohim. And it shall come to pass that as Yahuwah rejoiced over you to do good to you and to multiply you, so Yahuwah will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And Yahuwah shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But Yahuwah shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have no assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would Elohim it were even. And at even thou shalt say, would Elohim it were morning. For the fear of thine heart, wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. It's talking about going into slavery, and what happened. That was verse 68. That's the conclusion of the violation of his covenant, his law. Ultimately winds up in people being enslaved, and the process of getting there is horrendous. I mean, just by what we read and from it, I mean, it's pretty, like a nightmare kind of scenario. But it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, it doesn't have to. Because like I said earlier, if if people would repent and pray, and seek the Father's mercy, then, he would mitigate this stuff. Now, sin has a price that has to be paid. There's a penalty for sin, and you can't get away from it. But he will, lessen it if you seek him and you repent, and he can heal your land and restore you. But you have to repent. Well, thank you folks for this, other session. That's the end of this session. I love you. Pray for you. If you have a mind to, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment. Thank you.